All right, let's jump right in. Now, when you think about cutting-edge tech, your mind probably goes to AI, or maybe space travel. I bet you don't think about that gas canister you use for your barbecue. But what if I told you that this everyday fuel is smack in the middle of a huge hidden technological revolution? Today, we're going to look at what almost 6,000 patents reveal about liquefied petroleum gas, or LPG, and uncover a story of fierce global competition and incredible innovation. You know, we talk a lot about the big players in energy: oil, solar, wind. But what about the stuff that's working quietly in the background? The fuel that powers everything from a family's home in a remote village to an entire fleet of city buses? Well, that's where LPG comes in. I mean, you know this stuff. It's in the canister for your camping stove, right? Or the big white tank hooked up to a grill. It's so common, so much a part of our lives that it's practically invisible. And that familiarity, well, that's what's hiding a much, much bigger story. And this is where the story blows past the backyard barbecue. As the entire world is on this hunt for cleaner fuels, for a way to bridge our energy future, LPG is suddenly stepping into the spotlight. It's being seen as a really strategic asset for transportation, for industry, you name it. And that shift, it's kicked off a fascinating global race. So first things first, let's get a real sense of the scale here, because it turns out LPG is kind of an energy giant that's been hiding in plain sight. So how do we actually know all this is happening? Well, we can map it. We can see exactly who's been investing, where this boom is centered, just by digging into over a decade's worth of patent data. For 13 years, while all the headlines were focused on other things, companies and whole countries were quietly filing thousands and thousands of patents, and they were all aimed at one thing: mastering LPG technology. This was not some side project. It was a sustained, strategic push. And this one number really tells you a huge part of the story. 5,917. That's how many new patents were filed. I mean, just think about that for a second. That is a staggering amount of research for a fuel that's been around for more than 100 years. Which leads to the big question: why now? And this wasn't just some random spike in activity. The data shows this really clear trend. It starts back in 2010, and from there, the pace of invention just keeps growing, year after year, hitting its absolute peak just last year. So this strategic bet on LPG, it's not winding down. If anything, it's speeding up. So where is this all happening? Well, the patent data is pretty clear on that. China is leading the charge by a pretty wide margin, but you've got innovation powerhouses like Japan and the US right there in the mix. This tells you it's not just a regional thing. This is a full-blown global competition for who's going to be on top in a really key energy sector. Okay, so we've seen who's innovating. But what are they actually inventing? This is where it gets really interesting, because it shows you the real-world problems they're trying to crack.
Right? I mean, with nearly 6,000 new patents, what problems are the world's top engineers so focused on solving when it comes to LPG? Well, it turns out the patents all cluster into a few key areas. We're talking big improvements in how LPG is stored and how it's distributed. There's a ton of new work on vaporization systems. That's the tech that turns the liquid back into a gas so you can actually use it. And a huge focus on combustion efficiency, getting more bang for your buck. But there is one area that, more than any other, stands out.
Leak. It's a simple four-letter word, but it represents one of the single biggest drivers of innovation across this entire 13-year period.
And you have to realize this isn't just about making things more efficient. A massive chunk of all this brain power is going into safety and reliability. We're talking about patents for smarter valves, for stronger cylinders, for advanced detection systems. This is the kind of innovation that has a real human impact. It's about making an essential fuel safer for millions of people all over the world.
And of course, behind these big trends, you have major companies, the titans of tech, all battling it out for a competitive edge.
Yeah, this isn't just happening in some university lab. You've got global corporations from the auto industry, from the chemical sector, and they're pouring money into R&D. They're building these huge patent portfolios to lock down their market share and basically write the rules for LPG tech for the next few decades.
Let's just take one company as an example: Toyota. We all know them for cars, and that's exactly what their patent strategy is about. When you dig into their filings, you see this tight cluster of inventions all around fuel distribution systems for vehicles. Keywords like cylinder, valve, and fuel device show up again and again. Their goal is crystal clear. They're working to make LPG a mainstream fuel for transportation.
So what does this all add up to? Let's zoom back out and connect all these patents to what this actually means for our energy future. All of this intense work, this 13-year boom, it sends a really unmistakable signal. LPG is not some legacy fuel that's on its way out. No, it's being actively reinvented to be a critical part of how we power our world for a long time to come. The scale of investment is it's too big to be anything else.
And here's the bottom line. Here's why it all matters. First, all this R&D positions LPG as a vital bridge fuel. It's cleaner than old-school fossil fuels, but it's more reliable than some renewables, which helps smooth out that transition. Second, as we just saw, it's making an essential energy source way safer and more accessible for people. And finally, every single patent that improves combustion or cuts down on waste, well, that adds up to better energy efficiency on a massive global scale.
Which leaves us with this one last kind of provocative thought. We spend so much time looking up for our energy future, right? To the sun, to the wind. But what this data suggests is that maybe we should also be looking a little closer to home, at the technologies we thought we already knew. Maybe, just maybe, a key piece of our clean energy future has been hiding in our backyards this whole time.